What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Scoop on the U. I'm here with my co-host Brad. Got to give the man credit, man. He's going live while working, putting in that work. Brad, I love this part of the season with all kind of the coaching carousel, all the drama going, all the kind of rumors, sources going around stating this guy's leaving, this coach is going to the NFL, this job's opening up. Hey, a lot of crazy things are going on. Brad, where do we stand right now as a program moving forward this offseason?
Yeah, Paul, what's going on, man? Yeah, man, it's been a pretty hectic last couple of days.
Yep.
Whether it be people from the Miami Herald leaking stuff that's not supposed to yet, or cryptic tweets from players on the team right now, and then like you just mentioned, that we're in the off season, so it's gonna get pretty crazy here soon as far as staff changes and what else happens to players on the team. As we all know, earlier today, Patrick Joyner decided to enter the transfer portal. I'm not going to name any more names, but be on the lookout. There might be a couple more names that you're not expecting to hit the portal. But yeah, man, I kind of want to do this show kind of based just straight for the fans. You know, I've been having my phone blown up like the past 30 minutes with people asking me questions. So I kind of want to just like us kick it and just kind of answer anybody's questions on the live stream without giving out any, information that's not supposed to be given out. But I mean, I guess we could start with the Barry Jackson news yesterday. As far as Tyreek Stevenson, that is indeed true. Well, a lot of us have known in the background for a couple weeks now that Tyreek was very interested in coming back home. I think you'll still probably hopefully see that news happen. Who knows when? But it is very likely that Tyreek Stevenson could possibly end up being a Miami Hurricane, all said and done. One thing I will mention is January 11th is not only the deadline for college athletes as far as juniors, seniors wanting to declare for the NFL draft, but January 11th is also the day where kids get their Pell Grants, from what I'm heard. So you'll be seeing a lot of kids collecting that check from a school that they might not be really interested in going forward. So yes, there are a lot of big names in the transfer portal right now, but you could see a lot more that we're not aware of yet. So that week of January 11th, stay tuned for that. You should possibly see some more names that we're not expecting.
Tyreek Stevenson, for those of you guys who don't remember, a 4-star corner out of Miami Southridge Senior High School. Got to love that connection Coach Cooney is developing with players down there. He went to that high school as well, so part of their program. DeAndre Johnson, we just got him. He's an outside linebacker / defensive end. Yep. We're going to use him primarily as an edge rusher. I think it's going to be a nice transition going into the ACC Coastal from the SEC. I think he's going to have a really nice career at Miami in his final season of college football. Tyreek Stevenson, that would be a huge get at the cornerback position. You're getting a guy who has experience at the elite SEC level at a program such as Georgia, local guy as well. It's only going to improve our cornerback room. Brad, before we get started, transfer portal wise, where do you think Miami is looking at moving forward? My best guess is outside linebacker, cornerback play, and a wide receiver to wrap up the class, maybe a defensive tackle.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I would probably definitely put a defensive tackle up there. I would also say linebacker, a corner, and then, yes, a wide receiver. As we all know, Coach Likens and Coach Lashley are on the prowl right now as far as social media, and it seems like any decent, good wide receiver that hits the transfer portal, before fans could even realize it, our staff is already on them. So I am very intrigued to see what happens with that. There are a lot of big names out there. You got my boy Samari Torrey from Montana, who I like a lot. I've been speaking to him off the record a couple times, and he definitely does like Miami. But we'll see what happens there. But again, you have some other big names as well. You got
Charleston Rambo for me.
Yeah, you got Rambo from Oklahoma, and then you also got De'Ara King's teammate over
Keith Corbin
as well. Keith Corbin. I think those are some interesting names as well. I think they all fit differently as far as the offense. I think at this point it's going to be what type of receiver Lashley and Likens want to bring in. Me personally, I think a guy with a veteran leadership, similar to that KJ Osborne role. Me personally, I think Samari Chore fits that bill perfectly. Like I mentioned before, he is a academic Heisman guy, so he is very intelligent, very smart. He would pick up the plays quick, and he's kind of one of those guys where he comes into the room and he kind of follows by example, right? Or he leads by example. So I think he will definitely be in play. As far as coaching changes, let's go back to that, because that's been the most interesting topic on Twitter today, especially on the chat right now. First off, shout out to Epron Banda, DeMarcus Van Dyke, Mike Zuckerman, for everything they've done for the University of Miami. I wish them all the best. But there's obviously some rumblings going on of who might replace those guys.
Yep.
As far as Epron Banda, obviously, as we all know, he is a very good recruiter to some people, but are developing for safeties. As crazy as this might sound, it still hasn't been where it needs to be. I think some of the safeties that we got in are just so athletic to where it kind of overtakes the development portion. Guys like Jaquan Johnson, we saw early at Bubba Bolden. But from what I heard, there's a few names going around for the safeties coach. The University of Miami is very pinpointing on that coach in particular. That seems to be the top of the list as far as what the staff is looking at this moment. Whether it's a guy that is strictly a safeties coach, or if it's a guy that could kind of come in and be the safeties coach and be either a DC or a co-DC. I mentioned on Twitter the other day about Baker possibly being demoted to co-DC, and people were knocking me for it and like, no, that's not going to happen. And from now, what I've heard, it could possibly happen. It's all up to Manny Diaz at this point. I think fans for the past couple of years, we have been pretty pissed off about where the direction of this program has gone, whether it be some of the coaches we're hiring, or if we just don't have the funds or not directing those funds the right way to the football program. From everything I've heard, we now have the funds to do what we want to do. It's going to be all on Manny Diaz, Kane fans. Whatever happens these next couple of weeks, it will solely rely on Manny Diaz. From what I heard, he has the green light to do anything he wants right now. And if some things aren't going to be done, I don't necessarily think it's still not going to happen. I've heard that we have some power behind us to where things will happen regardless what Manny decides. I'm not going to go further into that. But, yeah, I've heard there's a few SEC names as far as guys.
Really?
Yeah, we're looking at the SEC as far as veteran coaches. The keys to look for, I'm not going to put too many names out there because I don't want to kind of leak some info out, but SEC guys that have a lot of ties to South Florida. The one name I will say is probably most likely not a candidate would be T-Rob.
Yep.
From what I heard, he will be probably most likely going to Florida.
Yep.
There are some other big names out there. I mentioned yesterday or the day before, Monroe from Syracuse. That could be an option, but I've also heard he's not the first option.
Right. And I don't think he should be either.
Yes. Muschamp, I don't see Will Muschamp being a guy as well. I don't think he's going to be the right fit for us. But yeah, man. As far as DeMarcus Van Dyke, we just touched a little bit on Epron Banda. As far as DeMarcus Van Dyke, man, that is one coach on the staff that it's going to hurt losing him, man. Anytime you're around DeMarcus, he's nothing but smiling, man. The positivity that he brings to the program, he bleeds that orange and green. He is a definition of a Miami Hurricane. It's going to suck losing him. I wish the best for him, and I honestly hope that him getting these first reps as an actual cornerback coach will benefit him at Utah State, and maybe, who knows, he might circle back around in a couple of years and be back with the University of Miami. But as far as the role DeMarcus Van Dyke played for the University of Miami, from everything I've heard, there will be a promotion for someone within the program already.
Interesting.
to,
Okay.
to take over DeMarcus Van Dyke's position.
I think I have an idea where that's heading too.
Yeah, I mean it for people that follow the program pretty in depth, and some of the changes that Manny has made, especially in the last year, as far as certain guys that we're bringing on staff to help solely in the recruiting department, especially in South Florida. You look at what DeMarcus Van Dyke did for us. That was probably his main pinpoint for Miami, is bringing in that South Florida recruiting. And yeah, it sounds like we're going to still have a guy in place that is going to be able to pick up right where he left off and hopefully do just as good, if not better, than what DeMarcus Van Dyke did.
Absolutely. And Brad, there's been a speculation that Coach Stroud as well may retire. Obviously, he's had prior health concerns moving forward. Do you believe those indications remain true? I ultimately think we will be having a new defensive line coach next year. It just has to be the right guy. And I think Manny wants one specific person, or maybe has a quick short list. Do you think that's what the scenario looks like?
Yes. From what I heard, Manny Diaz does have a short list. There's only about 2 or 3 names on that list as far as the D-line position. And again, this D-line coach could possibly also take over as DC as well. This is just all things that I'm throwing out there. There's a possibility of just about anything. But yeah, from what I heard, Manny Diaz is kind of giving Coach Stroud the freedom to do what he wants. I think they're both on the same page that regardless what happens, that Coach Stroud will be doing less work. For instance, so I'm almost 100% certain we will have a new D-line coach. Whether or not Coach Stroud is still on staff, that's something I don't want to really put out there yet.
Right.
But we will most likely be having a new D-line coach, and I think Manny has kind of given Coach Stroud the freedom to say, hey, man, we kind of know you have health issues, if you still want to be with the program, by all means, we'll give you a spot. But if you don't, it's okay. We have other guys that they're already looking at to take that place.
And Brad, I mean, the first name I would consider if I'm Manny Diaz, and I think this would be a great hire, 10 out of 10, Charlie Patridge from Pittsburgh. His resume is outstanding. He was the co-defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. When Brett Bielema took the job to Arkansas, he went with the staff. Defensive line coach, co-DC there as well, is the defensive line coach and associate head coach at Pittsburgh. They have a very good defensive line as well. I think that would be a great name to consider. Also, Brad, can you confirm, because I believe this is true, Kevin Patrick, there is a clause in his contract from NC State he cannot coach in the conference, or is that misleading?
So yeah, I've heard that as well. I've heard that Kevin Patrick's name as part of that, to where his buyout agreement is a little steep. From what I've heard, we are going to have the money to fund whoever we want. But there are certain position coaches that want a little bit too much money, and Miami has kind of stuck to their ground and know what they want to pay. Prime example is T-Rob. From what I heard, Miami was somewhat interested in T-Rob, but the price tag to bring in T-Rob without being the defensive coordinator and strictly just being a cornerback coach was a little bit too hefty for Miami's price tag. So I see him going to Florida most likely. But yeah, man, I dropped it on Twitter the other day, man. I mentioned Partridge and I mentioned Kevin Patrick as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Partridge is one of those guys that's name continues to bring up. Also Monroe as well. As we all talked about, there are a couple other names I don't want to mention yet. I kind of want to wait until a couple more sources put that out there. But there are some people in the chat that have brought his name up, and they're kind of on the right path. I don't want to kind of pinpoint who it is. But yeah, man, there are some good options. And I think at the end of the day, the Miami Hurricanes are going to rely on Manny Diaz to make the right moves. And if Manny Diaz does not make the right moves, from everything I've heard, we will do what needs to be done regardless.
Thanks to the 166 people on with us live. Greatly appreciate it. Brad, a lot of people have been asking the linebacker position. Coach Packy, what's the situation with him? He does come from the Manny Diaz coaching tree. A lot of people believe he is very protected under Manny Diaz. Do you believe that's true with his job security?
Yeah, I do. I think Packy and Baker are two of those guys that are very close to Manny Diaz. But like I mentioned earlier, man, our athletic department, some of the boosters that are behind, from what I've heard, they're kind of fed up. As everyone knows, there was a meeting that went on yesterday. Some people may not know this, but that's the second meeting that happened. There was a meeting prior to that about a week ago. Some things were hashed out, some things were said, and they kind of wanted to regroup and re-talk about some things, get the money situation in order. And after talking yesterday, it looks like our boosters are kind of sick of it, to where there are certain guys on the staff that ultimately, whether Manny wants them here or not, I think are eventually going to have to get canned. So I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Baker gets demoted. I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Baker gets fired. I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Packy gets fired or goes somewhere else. These are all just scenarios. I'm not saying this is going to happen.
Go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
No, you're good. I keep seeing people say with T-Rob. I love T-Rob to death. I would love him here, but the price for him is a little bit too hefty from what I'm understanding. But there are going to be some other names that people aren't aware of, that once those names come out, they'll be very happy with. If you do your research, every guy that we are going after, the number one thing they are looking for is, are you proven? Have you developed? And are you tied to South Florida? And I think those are the names that you're going to start to get circling, where all these guys that are going to be brought up in the next 24 to 48 hours are all going to be tied to South Florida. We saw what DeMarcus Van Dyke did for us as far as South Florida. A guy you can think about is Telly Lockett. I think Telly Lockett is going to be the perfect guy to step in DVD's role. So look for Telly Lockett to do his thing. But yeah, man, Coach Barrow could be a possibility. I saw someone just bring that up. Corey Raymond, maybe. I don't know if staff has gone after Corey Raymond as well. From what I heard, there's a couple other guys ahead of Corey Raymond, because they're going to want 2 or 3 guys to do multiple things, not just one.
Personally, Brad,
Yeah.
if I'm Miami, if we're looking for a new defensive coordinator or a co-DC per se, go after Kevin Steele. His name is still out there. I thought he ran a very good defense at Auburn. That wasn't the problem why Gus Malzahn got fired. It was Gus Malzahn's offense. I think he would be a great candidate if we have the appropriate money to land him.
Yeah, I think Kevin Steele is definitely a possibility as well. And here's the thing, man. Between DeMarcus Van Dyke and Banda, the 2 guys that we lost, there's a lot of ties that they had, a lot of relationships they built that we're going to have to keep. For instance, a kid like Basante out of Miami Central, the linebacker, from what I heard, he's the number 1 target on Miami's list for next year. And Banda and DVD did a very good job at building that relationship with him. So I'm almost certain that we're going to bring in guys that still can keep that relationship where it is and kind of take it to the next level. Telly Lockett being one guy. But yeah, any of those names that you mentioned, I have heard that as well.
So Brad, is there any confirmation? Because I know there was speculation about Manny meeting with Blake James yesterday. Was that, you think that there's any validation towards that statement?
Oh, 100%. That statement's valid 100%.
So I'm assuming, there was pressure from the Board of Trustees stating, hey, what's going on? We're not going to have another Al Golden, Mark D'Onofrio situation. We want to win at the University of Miami. We will supply you the funds to win games.
That you kind of hit it right on the head, Paul. That's pretty much what happened. From what I heard, they actually had a private meeting last week as well that a lot of people weren't aware of. And they kind of hashed some things out, but the money was something that wasn't at the talk of the conversation. And then they kind of regrouped and saw where Manny Diaz's head was, and kind of played with his words to see what direction Manny wanted to go, and if indeed he was likely of firing some guys that are very close to Manny Diaz.
Right.
And I think they kind of understood from the way Manny was talking that possibly might not be a situation that could happen. So they kind of regrouped and had another meeting yesterday. And money was probably one of the number one topics of the conversation in the meeting, to where now none of this is going to be an issue. They're just not going to overpay guys that they don't think needs to. They're going to be pretty smart with their money. But I would say in the next 24 hours, you're going to see some guys get let go or fired from the staff.
Wow. Next 24 hours. A lot of people have been asking when will be an official statement per se. Just keep refreshing the Twitter feeds. If you're on Twitter, or just stay tuned on your phone. We will get word soon. Do you think they're waiting to the end of the national title game per se to make all changes on staff, or they know who they want? They've already contacted those guys and they're assembling a short list?
I think they've already contacted guys. I think they do have a short list. It just goes back to the money thing, man. There are certain guys. I mean, D. Hernandez and John L. are mentioned with T-Rob. Again, I would love T-Rob, man, but he is one of the few guys that they like, but they don't want to overpay.
Right.
They have some other options in mind. That me personally, once I heard some of the names and did the research, I was very happy with some of the guys that were possibly going after, and I think fans will be pleased with the outcome as long as it gets done. But everything's in the works from what I heard. We just got to be patient right now. It's hard to do that, but I think you're going to see a little bit more coaching changes in the next 24, 40 hours as far as guys getting let go. You may possibly see one or two more players enter the transfer portal on the football team.
Interesting.
I won't hint at any names, but I did hear some things about that. You should also hear by the weekend whether or not Brevin Jordan and Bubba Bolden return. From everything I've heard, if Bubba Bolden leaves, I would almost 100% say that Galuate from USC will not be a candidate that will be coming to Miami.
His brother does play for Michigan State. I touched that up with Stu, the guest I had last night as well. And his, I think, like I said, if Bolden, Brevin do declare to the draft, I think it's basically a done deal. He's going to go to Michigan State. And Stu was pretty confident he was going to go to Michigan State as well. So, yeah, it is what it is. We move forward, and the portal's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, it is. Like I mentioned earlier, man, people mark the calendar of January 10th, January 11th, man. It's going to get crazy.
Yeah.
That's going to be when more guys figure out they want to declare for the draft. And then also that's where some money comes in from the school to these student athletes. And I'm almost positive there's some other names that haven't been brought up yet in the transfer portal that they're kind of just waiting to get that last check from the university, and then they're going to bounce. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that.
Right. No, absolutely. Brad, Stefan, he brought up NFL names. A lot of people are going to be let go, part ways with the staff. I mean, for example, Coach Simpson from Atlanta, if he is let go, he already coached at Miami. He's done a great job as our defensive line coach. Do you see any NFL coaches maybe coming to the University of Miami that we can probably consider?
I have heard Coach Simpson's name be brought up. I believe he's probably second or third on the list. There are one or two other guys. I've also heard that Coach Rump might possibly be going to the NFL for some duties as well.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's pretty much about it for the most part. The only thing I know for certain is every single coach that we bring on is going to be tied into recruiting. That is one of the main focus that Manny and staff is wanting to do, is they want to make sure that every guy we bring in has some type of ties to South Florida recruiting.
What would be your dream staff right now if you were Manny Diaz and you can just pick guys out and be realistic per se? That would be a nice staff at the University of Miami going into the 2021 season.
I mentioned it the other night. And there were a couple names I mentioned on Twitter as far as my dream coaching staff. And I kind of put these names out there just to see if those were realistic options. And I've heard that most of the names I mentioned are, But yeah, man, Coach Partridge is one guy I would put high on the list. I really liked Monroe, but the next name I heard that's above him, I like him even more. I don't want to bring up his name yet because
that's fair.
It's information that we can't have get out there. I don't want to pull a Barry Jackson,
Of course,
but it is a name that I think fans, once you hear the name and once word gets out, I think fans will be pretty happy with. But I would put Monroe at number 2 as far as safeties coach. But Partridge is up there. Kevin Patrick is up there. Coach Simpson's up there. Like I said, I don't think T-Rob's coming. Corey Raymond could possibly be an option, but we'll see. Like I said, we're gonna see some things shake up in the next 24, 48 hours, and you're gonna start to get some answers that we all want. But changes will be made. I'm 100% sure of that. I'm hoping that we could possibly get another cornerback in the portal. I would really like Tyreek Stevenson, but I want one more. I've seen fans kind of knock Tyreek, Georgia fans and Miami fans, and people got to realize, man, when you go back and watch Georgia, Tyreek Stevenson was playing the star position, which is very similar to the striker position in our defensive scheme. The problem with playing the star position, especially in the SEC, is you have to be very smart and you have to be able to do multiple things at once, whether it's reading the defense or knowing what needs to happen on every given play in multiple positions. And I love Tyreek Stevenson to death, but I don't think that is his best fit. And I think when he plays man-to-man, which is not much at Georgia, they play a lot of zone with Tyreek. Once he transitions over to a possible Miami team and playing more of a man-to-man and being a strictly corner, you're going to see tremendous growth from Tyreek Stevenson, and I think he could easily be the day one starter at cornerback. I think we have way too many options at striker to move him to striker. I think if he does decide to be a Miami Hurricane, he's definitely going to be a corner. But all the information Barry reported yesterday is indeed true. There were some fans yesterday getting at me like acting like I didn't know or not whatnot. It's just obviously we have a couple people in a group chat where we kind of knew about this stuff a week or two ago. It's just one of those things that shouldn't be get out right away. But I'm going to make sure that some of the information I got the past 24 hours doesn't get leaked out, especially with coaches. But I want fans to be aware that things are happening, things are going in the right direction, whether you believe it or not. The whole Blake Baker staying on staff about a week ago, I was pretty confident that was going to happen. Now, fellas, ladies, gentlemen, anything. When I tell you anything can happen with this staff going forward. I'm really excited. We ended off on a bad note,
right?
But again, we got to trust Manny Diaz, man. We got to trust him to make the right moves. And from everything I heard, if we don't trust Manny Diaz, there's people above Manny that will make the moves for him. So I think it's coming.
Yeah, I think ultimately, me as a fan of the University of Miami, if Manny Diaz cleans house with the defensive staff, I am all in the Manny Diaz train. He has proven to me once again to get rid of his own students, his own coaches under his coaching tree, to get rid of them after they're failing. I will never say a negative comment about Manny Diaz if he gets rid of this defensive staff, and I want him to be at the University of Miami for a long time. That shows me he wants to win, and he will drop his pride to succeed. So I'm all in for Manny Diaz.
Definitely, man. We have to. I mean, he's our head coach right now. We got nothing we can do but support him right now. Same thing with every player on the team. I know people are talking about the D. Wiggins and Mark Pope situation. Don't be surprised if one, if not both, come back. I've heard that Mark Pope is most likely could stay. And you know what? It's obviously going to make him hungrier. He knows what he needs to work on with all the fans that were bashing him. So this wide receiver room, man, it's going to get interesting. It's pretty clogged up right now. Same thing with the tight end room. And like I said, you might potentially see one or two more guys hit the transfer portal in the next couple of days, like Patrick Joyner did. As far as the Ed Reed situation, man, from everything I've known, and my boy Co, who's I mean, he's real good friends with Ed Reed. We had the pleasure to speaking to him a couple times, especially at the Clemson game. We got to hang out with him and just chop it up, man. And Ed Reed is very comfortable where he's at right now. He likes the position he's in. I will say with Coach Banda moving on, it does help the situation a little bit more in the future with Ed Reed. This is something a lot of people may not know, man, but now that Banda is gone, Banda and Ed Reed have had some rough patches the past season or two. For anyone aware, they weren't really on the same terms. But now with him gone, it's kind of opening up some doors. And yeah, Ed Reed is definitely involved with some of the stuff that's going on as well. But I don't see Ed Reed moving to be an actual position coach. As far as analysts, I think Manny Diaz is kind of given an option for Coach Stroud to kind of get pushed back into that original role that Coach Stroud was brought in to do before he was the defensive line coach.
Yep. Which was
so that's another thing as well. But yeah, I mean, some of the local guys we brought in this past year, guys like Telly Lockett, you got Ed Pata as well. Those guys are going to be more of a difference than what they were this past year.
There you go. They will be. We'll see what happens moving forward. If they do, who gets promoted into the DeMarcus Van Dyke role as well. Be very interesting. Like you said, a couple names to look out for. Brad, very curious. N'Kosi Perry. Do you think he will be testing the transfer portal waters? I think he'll get his opportunity at a lot of Power 5 schools if he does enter the transfer portal, or do you think he'll return for another year at Miami?
Who is this again? I'm sorry.
N'Kosi Perry.
N'Kosi Perry. Yeah, that's a real interesting one. I think it's all going to be on N'Kosi, man. I think it's whether or not how much he enjoys being around his teammates and just being a Miami Hurricane. I think after the performance he had in the bowl game, there are some other schools that weren't looking at him before that I've heard that are potentially looking at him. It's going to be at a smaller division, but I'm pretty sure he's going to stay local in Florida if he does decide to transfer. But that's all going to depend on De'Aaron King, man. How quick his recovery is. As we know, the type of injury that De'Aaron suffered, the timetable could be 8 weeks. It could be a lot sooner than that. It could be later than that. It all depends on the person and their work ethic. But De'Aaron King has had an injury prior, about 2 years ago at Houston, and he recovered pretty well. So we'll see, man. As far as the wide receivers, I'm interested to see where we go. Some people are in the comment section. You got the Keith Corbins, you got the Samari Torres, you got the Rambos from Oklahoma, and then another name that is popping up is Shivers as well. From everything I've heard, staff isn't really looking at him. He's had some off the field issues and hasn't played much in the past 2 years, even though he was at Alabama. I think he could potentially do some things. I just don't know if the staff is ready to take a chance on some guys that are off the field.
Breaking people keep reporting 247 Sports announced Rump is not a part of the staff anymore. I'm trying to find it. I can't verify that. Yeah,
like I was saying earlier, man. The news is gonna pop soon. But yeah, Mike Rump won't be on staff.
Yeah, and it's gonna be very exciting what we do moving forward. Ultimately, look, we can recruit at Miami. We were close to finishing a top 10 staff with this recruiting class. It's not over yet, the rankings, but we're in the hunt for a top 10 class. Imagine enhancing our staff with great recruiters. We could kill it here. We really could. With Manny Diaz, if he cleans house. Once again, I will be fully confident in Manny Diaz if he cleans his defensive staff. Once again, he's showing me he wants to win at Miami, and I will never say a negative thing about him moving forward. Never.
No, absolutely.
Hey, Brad, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up? We covered a lot. Very, very, very exciting, interesting times at the University of Miami once again this offseason. Anything else?
No, that's about it, man. Just Cane fans, be patient. Rick pointed that with the 8 weeks thing. It's definitely longer than 8 weeks with the ACL. I don't know what I was thinking on that. But yeah, man, just Cane fans, be patient. I promise you things are coming. Things will get better here shortly. And just know that anything you think wasn't going to happen this offseason, it could possibly happen. Everything is on the table. There is not one coach on the defensive side of the ball whose job is safe from what I heard. And there are candidates at each position that staff is already going after.
And it is official. 247 Sports Inside the U has reported Coach Stroud and Coach Rump will be parting ways with the University of Miami.
Yes,
Coach
sir.
Stroud will not coach for Miami per se. That does not mean he parted ways, so I apologize for that statement. But Coach Mike Rump has officially parted ways. Coach Stroud may be retained on staff to a different role.
Yep.
It's official.
Yeah, and once 24/7 or someone that is pretty reliable on Twitter or social media, now that these guys are gone, once they start bringing up some likable candidates, I will kind of retweet it and hint a name that I didn't mention on the show today because I just didn't want to leak information. But once that name is brought up, I will definitely back it up on that and say this is the guy I want. This is the guy I heard. But I'm gonna keep it close to the vest until we hear that name brought up. But I will say there's a couple of people in the chat that brought his name up. So I just didn't want to mention it. So
very interesting. Gotta love it, Brad. Very exciting times this offseason once again. As always, got to give credit to Brad, man, putting in the work. He's with Canes Insight as a contributor. He comes on my show as a co-host as well, doing a great job while at work. Got to love it. Brad, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate your hard work, man.
Of course, brother. It's always about the you. We do it for the fans. We'll be having a live show, Thursday night?
Oh, yeah, we'll be going live Thursday night.
Yep, we'll have a live show Thursday night. Hopefully, we'll have some more names to give out potentially by then that I'm not able to give out this time. I'll also be having an interview with Andres Borregales, our future kicker, with Canes Insight that will be coming out later this week as well. But yeah, man, great things are coming. Be patient, Cane fans, and I promise you, things are heading in the right direction, whether you believe it or not. And we'll be going full force at a couple guys.
Thank you for the 275 people on with us 37 minutes in, and always all about the you.
Yes, sir.